People who are no longer bound by NDAs, what are some surprising secrets that you can expose? In a tech support role, one manager used to boast his team's average call times were the lowest in the company. While average call times were in the 12, 17-minute range, his team was constantly under 10 minutes. His team was awarded multiple times, and his strategy was adopted company-wide to all customer service and technical support teams, including our internal IT teams. That strategy was under a strict NDA, as we did not want to allow competitors to emulate it. When our call center would go bid on contracts, it became an awesome metric. Our customer satisfaction scores are on par, but we have call times 20 to 30% lower than our competitors. The dirty secret of the NDA that I was not allowed to disclose? Their big method? Just hang up on people. Straight up. Find a way to say, okay, go ahead and do that and call back if it doesn't fix it. Then hang up. Don't wait for confirmation. Okay, so reboot your PC and your problem should be solved. Thanks for calling. Click. Eventually, they came out with more useful metrics that tracked things like first call resolution, which absolutely shredded this company, and they went out of business a year or two later. I remember reading an IT hell blog back in the late 90s or so where a guy was documenting the shitty IT call center he was working, and the manager's favorite guy there had amazing numbers because he'd just tell every caller their warranty was voided and he couldn't help them. His throughput was amazing. Huge call volume, very low call times. He was the department golden boy. Thing was, he considered any action taken as voiding the warranty. Turning the PC on would void it, according to him. So, naturally, they put him on a fast track to management. Many years ago, I used to work help desk, and there was one girl who would have stats way better than anyone else with calls taken and time on calls. A few times I sat beside her and saw that she would take calls for about a minute, then hang up. I thought this was weird as she would do it about 10 times a shift. One time when I was walking by her, I saw that she was calling someone on her cell phone, then her phone would ring. She was calling into the 1-800 number when it was her time in the queue, go through the prompts, and take her own call. She would hang up before a minute was up so that it would register as a call taken. Had a job doing cold call asset retrieval, threatening people with charges unless they returned their cable boxes. Worst job ever. I had a list of disconnected numbers or numbers that just kept ringing so that when I needed a break, I could dial a couple dozen and chill. Manipulation of data to give false impressions of reliability was something I saw quite blatantly utilized with little repercussions. My company was struggling to meet on-time delivery schedules and for numerous years was as embarrassingly low as 40%. A new manager comes in and within months we are now boasting an on-time delivery rate on a brilliant 95%. Turns out all he did was change what constituted an on-time delivery. Each time we knew a product would be late, we'd notify the customer of the delay and ask them to confirm they still wanted the order. If they still wanted the product, the on-time delivery would be recorded against the new expected date, as opposed to the original promised date. Company literature was being sent out boasting of our 95% on-time delivery, now amongst the highest in the industry, when in fact we were by that point meeting less than 30% of initial delivery schedule targets. It was so simple that I'm sure numerous companies are getting away with such underhand tricks. About 20 years I signed an NDA with a very large record company regarding their attempts to get into selling their catalog online. Streaming, sales, etc. It was a minefield because they were still wary of pissing off high street retailers, and that's where the charts came from. These attempts were frustrated by their top-level corporate guys. One week they all went to a "What is an MP3" conference in Buenos Aires to get them up to speed. The thing is, they spent so much time partying, the only talk which seemed to stick was the scare tactics about how teens could scrape MP3s from the web, and they could be copied and redistributed easily. When they came back, every item in the catalog was ordered to be scrubbed from the web. No 30-second previews, nothing should be audible. Not a hint of audio. Lock it all down. Put all the tapes in a chest and seal it with concrete at the bottom of the sea. That's gonna make everyone go back to CDs. Good old profitable CDs. Kinda missed the early 2000s pirate scene. The hilarious thing was, all their current releases were on a big set of shelves, and visitors were invited to take whatever they liked. I'd then take them back to my office and rip them all. The enemy within. At my old job, Pam helped me reallocate my clients' ad scheduling so I can invoice out a little extra for the last month of December 2014, helping me hit my yearly budget. I got let go 2 weeks after that, and I believe the original plan was to fire me under the justification of missing my yearly budget. Instead, I got a severance of $15,000. I believe Pam knew or heard what the lay of the land was and helped me out. Appreciate you, Pam. My dad was axed in a similar manner in 2005. Was already on the chopping block for chronic illness the previous 2 years, but his HR rep suddenly got on his case about being up to date on certain info, and sure enough, he was let go right before New Year's 2006, but was able to maximize his severance, disability benefits, and COBRA due to her diligence. I worked for BuzzFeed, and they told us to post on our AskReddit and then steal content for our articles, and my BuzzFeed NDA says I'm not allowed to tell you all that. That's no secret. I thought that everyone knew this. I was never under an NDA, but the hotel is under new ownership, so I guess I can say it now. The hotel had no internet connection starting around 1 a.m. to 6 a.m., like clockwork, every night. IDK if it was just a system fault or if it was cost-cutting. But without internet, the security cameras didn't work or record anything. The fire alarm system doesn't work either. The alarms go off, but it doesn't call for help. So if we had a fire that started at 3 a.m., for example, then unless someone else that's driving by calls it in, I have no idea what's happening. One night we had an assault happen in the parking lot. The police needed camera evidence, and our cameras didn't record anything because the internet was out. So that was fun explaining to the detectives. As someone who works in property management, this seems like an insane risk to take to save a small amount of money. Most fires start during those hours, and an insurance fire investigator would easily find out what was going on and why there was no call-out. One moderate fire and the owners would be out of business. Edit. Someone correctly pointed out that perhaps fires don't mostly start at those hours, but those are the hours in which fires grow unchecked. I should correct myself and say that the middle of the night is when you need the fire safety systems the most. Pro tip. Only ever install hardwired cameras. Wi-Fi cameras can easily be deactivated by a simple Wi-Fi jammer. That's what thieves are using when stealing cars from dealerships. I worked for a website creation company back in 1999, managing the website for a big brand, large bank that was sponsoring a round-trip paid ticket to the Super Bowl. I worked on the website that collected all the entries, and I posted the rules that the company's legal department wrote to describe the rules of the contest. A random winner was to be selected for the prize, and I wrote a software tool to randomly pick the winner to be used when the contest was over. When the contest ended, I was told to forget my tool, forget the rules. Just look in the database and find someone in South Florida, where the Super Bowl was in 1999, so the company wouldn't have to pay for airfare. In Prince George's County, Maryland, county transit bus drivers are instructed following an accident. They are not to speak to anyone until a supervisor arrives on the scene. An approved method for not talking, especially to other drivers involved, is to feign injury. There's actually money allotted to pay the fines related to wasting 911 and emergency resources, because analysts determined it was cheaper than costs associated with drivers accidentally admitting fault. There's also an entire audit and analysis team related to accidents because of the sheer volume of people who falsely claim to be on a bus during an accident. Edit. What an incredible response. To clarify, the current PG County the bus transit system is run by a company called RATP. They were hired during COVID, which was after I left the state. The company running the buses until 2020 was called Veolia. Hasbro has tried to make the following two films: Stretch Armstrong, a gritty re-imaging starring Taylor Lautner, the wolf from Twilight, with a Nolan's Batman feel. Candyland, a Lauder-style epic for children starring Adam Sandler. Both got pitch packets made before ultimately being shelved. Last I heard, the Candyland idea is still kind of alive. I briefly worked at a university in South Florida in the late 90s and early 00s. I was chosen to be on an academic integrity team, basically reviewing claims of plagiarism and cheating, and deciding between the five of us whether it is valid or not. We were made to sign NDAs when we accepted the invite to be a part of the team. There were 3 instances where an employee that was taking classes there clearly cheated, and the issue was brought to our attention. Those 3 times the cheating was blatant. All 3 times we were told to let it go, as it would look bad for the university to have it get out. I'm not sure if this is common for other universities, but at the time, I was under the impression that it was common practice everywhere. It was ultimately one of the main reasons I ended up quitting. I was, and still am, disgusted by it. Edit. I did not expect this one to blow up the way it did. Just wanted to say that I am loving and cringing at your stories. The seediness is astonishing. I brought allegations of plagiarism to University of Houston. The accused was a very popular superintendent of a nearby school district. I was interviewed by the university's integrity panel and often felt like I was the one suspected of wrongdoing. They even suggested the possibility of hackers uploading a plagiarized version to their database. I was disgusted. They went quiet after a year and a half, so I spoke at the Board of Regents meeting and asked the president of the board, Tillman Fertitta, to do the right thing. A week later, they concluded the investigation and pulled his dissertation. Google Lance Hint plagiarism today for more about the story. Here you go, folks. In July 2016, Lance Hint was appointed to a 5-year term as superintendent of the Katy Independent School District, ISD. It was a triumphant moment for Hint, one that saw him come back to his hometown to head one of the largest school districts in Texas. He began the job on October 1st, and by most accounts, his tenure was reasonably successful. He backed teacher pay raises and even drafted a $609 million bond package that won over voter approval. However, his career took a sharp turn on March 19, 2018. On that day, during an otherwise routine school board meeting, a former classmate of Hint, Gregory Gay, took to the podium and accused Hint of bullying him during their time junior high school together. Hint was seen chuckling at the allegations, which helped cause the video of the accusations to go viral and become national news, despite the allegations being nearly 40 years old. Hint, for his part, denied the allegations, but others came forward, including an Alabama judge, to accuse Hint of having a bullying past. There was even a lawsuit that accused Hint of beating a man unconscious when he was 18. The case was settled without criminal charges, but in the midst of the bullying allegations, a new set of accusations rose to the surface. Sean Dolan, himself a former Katy ISD student and parent of children in the district, noted on his blog, A Better Legacy, similarities between Hint's 2012 dissertation from the University of Houston and a 2008 dissertation by Keith Rowland at Liberty University. However, shortly after the allegations were launched, Hint announced his resignation from the position, which took effect on January 1, 2019. According to Hint, he and his family were the victims of an organized and relentless and dishonest smear campaign, and he needed to step away for his family's sake. But while his resignation announcement was met with literal cheers, what happened after added a new layer of controversy to Hint's story. First, the school board set aside some $25,000 to be used in a potential defamation lawsuit filed on Hint's behalf. Second, they gave him a 2-year separation payment, estimated to be worth $750,000. This angered many who wondered why taxpayer money was being used to provide him approximately 2 years' worth of salary and legal aid after he resigned. According to Dolan, the severance also resulted in a $350,000 penalty on the district issued by the state. However, after that resignation, things went quiet. The University of Houston continued its plagiarism investigation and, in January of this year, removed the dissertation from their site. The university has not commented publicly on the reason for the removal, nor whether any other action has been taken against Hint. But the policy of the university only allows for such removals to happen under special circumstances, including copyright violations, plagiarism, or falsification of data. For Dolan, who has not been sued so far, this was a vindication. While it likely brings the story to a close, it is an ending that leaves more questions than answers and more problems than solutions. The bizarre element. What makes the Lance Hint case so unusual is not the allegations against him. Neither the bullying allegations nor the plagiarism allegations are, by themselves, unusual. Many people in prominent positions face allegations of a checkered past, and even accusations of plagiarism in dissertations are remarkably common. What is unusual in this case is the response by both Hunt and the Katy ISD. With both allegations, Hint and the Katy ISD never really took the allegations seriously. Though Hint did eventually apologize for his bullying past and admit to being a young man that did dumb things, that came out after details surrounding the lawsuit emerged. Looking back to the plagiarism element, Hint has always denied committing any plagiarism, even after Dolan and others pointed at significant portions of overlapping text. Even now, with the removal of his dissertation, he had not admitted to issues with his work and has stayed silent since the latest news. But what is even more bizarre is the support from the Katy ISD. The school board never wavered from their support for Hint and never seriously investigated any of the allegations against him. At least some teachers in the district were similar, even holding a rally for him after a school board meeting. Why this was the case is anyone's guess. Hint was largely responsible for a major bond referendum that brought in $609 million to the district and also helped increase teacher pay. However, even that doesn't explain the complete lack of curiosity about the allegations. Judging from the extensive news coverage, no one at Katy ISD investigated or even sought to significantly address the allegations. This may have ultimately harmed Hint, who could have benefited from an impartial and transparent investigation that showed both he and the Katy ISD were taking the issues seriously. However, it's also a missed opportunity in other ways. One of the major criticisms of Hint has been his handling of bullying at the Katy ISD. When revelations about his own past came out, he had an opportunity to talk openly about it, discuss what he had learned from it, why he changed, and how it was going to apply those lessons to his duties. Likewise, with the plagiarism allegations, there was an opportunity to show that the Katy ISD takes academic integrity seriously, investigate the claims independently, and show students that these issues are significant. They missed that opportunity as well. By rushing to his defense, the board and educators at the Katy ISD not only may have hastened his resignation by throwing gasoline on the firestorm around him, but they also missed some great opportunities to actually teach the students under their charge. Bottom line. To be clear, the major critics of Hint do have at least a degree of personal animosity against him. However, that doesn't mean that he's the victim of a smear campaign. To find that out, one has to look at the facts. The facts seem to indicate that he is, at the very least, problematic in these areas. The lawsuit against him and the removal of his dissertation don't necessarily prove that he was a horrible person or a rampant plagiarist, but they hint that there were issues in his past. These are issues that Hint and the Katy ISD ignored and denied. By not confronting these issues openly, directly, and transparently, Hint and the Katy ISD made things much worse. That's true not just for Hint, but for the students in the district. And that, in turn, is what is strange about this story, that what was best for the students was never really addressed. The board and at least some of the district's teachers rushed to protect Hint without really addressing the issues behind the controversies. In doing so, they missed some great opportunities to turn this controversy into something positive, and only harmed everyone involved. Fortune 500, real estate, long time ago. We know about the black mold problem. We always knew. We do not disclose it. We intentionally do not look into. We don't want to know exactly what kind it is, because if it's dangerous, then we legally have to spend money to fix it. The only department that is allowed to talk about the black mold problem is press and PR, because only they know how to bury it correctly. That was not a great work culture. Just dealt with a black mold problem in an apartment complex. Found it on the walk through after stupidly signing a lease first. They ignored me when I brought it up repeatedly. I got the city involved talking to the high-ups in the company. The 180 they did after that was hilarious. They refunded everything and canceled my lease. You could almost smell the panic in the emails. IT consultant of many, many winters. The most critical applications in banking, insurance, and finance run on badly outdated machines held together by duct tape, prayers, and compressing dust, standing in dark, wet corners in mostly forgotten basements. Also, those systems are written in the most obscure and long-dead programming languages, or even directly in assembler for a certain chipset, written by code wizards in their own idiosyncratic dialects, who are now long retired or even dead. Backups? Backup systems are mostly non-existent, or the data tapes are worn down to basically transparent tape. Even had a case around 2020 where cleaning tape from 99 was still in the bay due to the robot being faulty. If a cleaner or janitor pulls the wrong plug to find an outlet for their vacuum, there is a decent chance that whole branches or even institutions begins to crumble. Most of those systems will also never be updated due to their legacy status, aka. We don't know what this is doing or even how it is doing, what it is doing, but it is a critical part of our whole infrastructure and nobody dares to touch it. But we will never invest the necessary sums to analyze those systems, write documentation, or even replace them. Edit. NDAs for companies I did projects for are long gone, but some of them are currently in an investigation process for fraud and tax evasion, so I won't disclose exact informations. Worked at a hospital specializing in cancer care. They were doing something new, actually targeting the type of cancer with the right type of chemo. Most cancer centers do not. So suppose you get cancer C, but the insurance companies, like Gov mandates, you get chemo for cancer, AB before treatment for C. As the money increases by like tenfold, downside for the patient with cancer C is they have to endure way more bouts of chemo than if they just targeted cancer C. So if you ever find yourself in that really bad boat, make sure your doctor's treatment plan is for the right cancer vice for the wrong checkbook. I worked for a company that oversees and enforces self-regulation for one of the power grids in the United States. My job was to help secure it against cyber attacks and to help write the regulations that enforce those protections. I had panic attacks on Sunday nights because I knew at work the next morning. We'd go over the list of everything not compliant, and the lawyers would argue they were, and nothing would get done. Many times the lawyers would tell me that I wasn't interpreting what was written correctly. Then I'd remind them that I wrote it with a committee, and if they didn't believe me, they could go look at the minutes taken in the meetings. Instead, they would just document their justifications for being compliant and not actually secure anything. The US power system is now so vulnerable to cyber attacks that it is only a matter of time before millions of people have their lives thrown into complete disaster, and potentially hundreds of thousands that will die. I just can't even think about how bad things are now. Tesla and Rivian electrical components are made in the same facility by a large electronic manufacturer and even share personnel. This once caused Elon to throw a fit and threaten to take the contract somewhere else. The solution? For the next visit, the company separated the lines by a wall and told Elon they had ended the Rivian contract. They still produce both and also the components for the new Ford electric models. Thanks for watching this video. Subscribe and comment if you know some of revealed NDAs. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.